Hey guys, this is Jen Williams and welcome. Welcome to this Trucking Life podcast. I know. It has been a minute. Well, first of all, I want to welcome everyone who is listening to the podcast and welcome any new, any returning, hopefully some future listeners. Welcome. This podcast is just what it says. This Trucking Life podcast, and it's discussing all the ins and outs of the trucking industry, how we can monetize the trucking industry, how we can make our business more efficient and more effective, and everything in between. So, if this is your first time listening, once again, welcome. Today's topic that we're going to hop in, we're going to talk about the cost of deadhead miles. And I know that some of you guys are dispatchers. Doesn't matter if you're a dispatcher, doesn't matter if you're owner operator, everybody knows about deadhead miles. But if you are new to the trucking industry, you might not know exactly what deadhead miles are. Well, in trucking, loaded miles equals money. And basically, the more cargo you haul, the more money you're going to make. Now, but when you drive empty, as it's called, even if it's just to pick up your next load, guess what? You are losing money. All right? You're losing money. So you want to try to avoid being a deadhead trucker driving deadhead miles. There's almost no way around deadhead miles. You're going to be empty and you're going to have to go for your next load. So deadhead is basically when your trailer is empty. Okay? All right? So it's inevitable, but you want to try to minimize your deadhead miles as much as possible. The loads are not coming to you, so you're going to be unloading miles on your journey. And so basically your strategy should just be to travel as few miles with no cargo, therefore minimizing your costs. So, you know how they say you need to spend money to make money? Well, deadhead miles are when truckers do much of the spending. And the deadhead miles can cost more than money. So here's the actual cost of driving deadhead that some people might not even think about. Okay. The obvious ones is fuel. Okay, diesel fuels. So if you're an owner operator or an independent contractor, just remember that's money that you're paying out. And you probably won't get reimbursed for those miles that you spend driving without a load. Okay. At best, some companies may reimburse for a fraction of the diesel cost per mile. Right? And that's because trucking companies are not required to pay for deadhead miles. So you got to remember that. So that's why it's ultra important for you to strategically map out where you're going, when you're going, how you're going. Because that's cash out of your pocket. Now, on the flip side, if you are a company driver, typically, and I will say typically, they do get paid for deadhead miles. All right, so that's a cost, the fuel. Safety. It's not safe to drive with an empty trailer. I don't know if y'all know that or not. The fact might not immediately come to mind when you're thinking about the cost of driving deadhead. But an empty trailer weighs half as much as the full ones. So when you're driving an empty trailer in a particularly, say, high winds, you run the risk of what? Having your trailer sway to and fro. And it may become difficult to control, or even worse, flip over. Both scenarios are very, very dangerous. So that's why you always want to check the weather and wind conditions before driving with that unloaded trailer. Okay? What's another cost of driving deadhead? time and efficiency, right? Time is money, as they say. And I don't completely agree with that, but I'm not going to go into that right now. But if you are driving Deadhead, you are spending time without making any money. So you want to, of course, avoid driving without loads as much as you can. And your equipment wear and tear. I think this is kind of obvious, but anytime you drive your rig, it endures wear and tear of the road and the weather. If you drive empty, that means you have no income to offset the price of damage to your truck. Right? All right, so how are you avoiding these deadheads? The best way to avoid deadhead miles is to drive loaded with money-making hauls. This is when those load boards sometimes come in handy. Y'all know I'm not really a fan of the load boards because the load boards are pretty much the crumbs. What could not be scheduled with the brokers. Okay? But where load boards sometimes becomes effective is when you're planning your trips. And that can kind of help you minimize your deadhead miles. Why? Because you can punch in if you're in a particular state and you're going to another state. You can punch it in and then it will tell you, I believe on almost every load board, the deadhead miles. Okay? And so you also would like to use the load boards to snag a tweener load. A tweener load is it's basically a short distance haul. And so that can be that perfect in-between cargo that lessens that deadhead stink. So, for example, if you're going, and this is just an example, if you're going from Baltimore to Atlanta, but you're not starting in Baltimore, you're actually starting in, let's say, Sterling, Virginia. If you can get a Baltimore to right in between, like Waldorf, Maryland, or Fairfax, Virginia, before you even hit Sterling, then you're picking up a load there, you're making some money there, and then you move from Sterling, ride that down to Atlanta. That's the tweener load. It's just about efficiency. And again, it's not always going to happen as picture perfect like that. But what you do want to do, minimize these deadheads so you can optimize your earnings. Hopefully that makes sense to you guys. I just wanted to drop a short message in your ear because it's all about making the most out here. You know, you're spending time, you're spending energy, and you're actually spending money to make money out here on the roads. So if you can't do it and you're not competent enough to connect the dots, and when I say the word competent, don't take it as, a negative thing, because really, I believe drivers, they really should just focus on driving. All that back office stuff, you're really doing yourself a disservice. And this is just my opinion. You don't have to listen to me. But I think you're doing yourself a disservice trying to dispatch yourself, trying to take care of your back office, trying to worry about the taxes, trying to do all this, and then trying to drive at the same time, trying to worry about picking up calls and families and problems and situations come up. It's just too much. Something has to give. So, in my opinion, it would behoove you not to put somebody in place and put somebody competent in place. Let me say that. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a a professional dispatcher, it can be somebody who maybe your spouse or your partner, your friend, or somebody that can dispatch for you, someone that you can trust, somebody who knows what they're doing. Put them in place. So all you have to worry about is the driving component of this thing. Right? To me, that makes more sense. And I know a lot of, especially owner operators, they're like, nah, it's going to cost me more money to hire a dispatcher. But honestly, it's costing you more money not to have a competent one. All dispatchers are not created equal. I will say that. You have to get someone that works with you, knows your game plan, knows your financial goals, knows what bottom line you're trying to get, etc., etc. Once you have that in place, watch and see how your revenue skyrockets. Okay? Once you all sit down and contemplate a plan, and then now all you have to do is worry about driving, look, you're going to be ahead of the game. All right? So that's the word. Like I said, we are in December 22nd, 2022. So this is going to be the last recording of 2022 of the podcast. I will see you guys, Lord willing, next year. And I have lined up some super interviews from different people in the transportation and logistics industry. So I'm super excited about that. I cannot wait to unveil those interviews so you guys can enjoy them. But last words are, be safe, have a happy holiday, have a blessed New Year's. Peace, y'all.